Hey guys, it's Rita here. I wanted to give you a little quick background on why I started podcasting and continue doing it to this day. So I am actually using Anchor.fm to record this podcast because it's free. One of the best parts about it is that they give you the creation tools that allow you to record and edit the podcast right from my phone or the computer. Anchor also distributes it for me, which is really cool because it makes it so much easier for me, and I can be heard anywhere from Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so many more. You can also make money from the podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So what are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app now. Hey guys, it's Rita here with Empowerment and All That, your favorite podcast for women empowerment. I wanted to take a quick second and thank everyone all around the world, from India to Belize to France to Ireland to the US and everywhere else that you're tuning in to listen to this podcast. You guys, because of all of you, I've been able to make it to 900 downloads in less than 3 months. So from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely thank you. And I hope that you share this podcast, rate and subscribe with anyone and everyone that you believe could share from some of these awesome tips. Now we dive into today's episode where we get a chance to talk about solo traveling for women. My guest is actually an expert who's been solo traveling for years. She also holds a full-time career as a doctor of PA. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Empowerment and All That, your favorite podcast for the best female empowerment stories. If you haven't had a chance to do so yet, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast and share it with anyone who would benefit from hearing stories from some very inspiring women. For today's episode, I'm joined by Tanya Schrobilgen, and she'll be talking 5 tips for female solo travelers. Tanya is a PA with a doctorate from Southern California who was born to a Filipino mother and a father from Minnesota. She earned her doctorate in medical science and has been practicing as a PA in an emergency department for over 6 years. She's an associate director for the Emergency Medicine PA Fellowship at Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, where she trains PAs to specialize in emergency medicine. She also teaches at local PA schools to give back to the PA education. But in between all of her leadership roles, she's extremely happy to say that she travels the world almost on a monthly basis. She's an expert at traveling on a whim and making most of her short 7 to 14-day trips. Her favorite trips include adrenaline-provoking activities like diving with sharks, jumping out of planes, volcano boarding, and camping in the Amazon jungle. Tanya, thank you so much for joining me today on Empowerment and All That.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about this stuff.
Well, I have to tell you, from following you on Instagram, I feel like I'm actually on all the trips that you go on regularly. You have a good way of putting yourself in the moment, but also allowing for your viewer to be part of the moment with you. So yeah, I'm like, I want to be there whenever I see your photos go up.
Yeah, I love it. I love sharing all my trips and stories with everyone. So it's kind of a passion of mine. So
that's awesome. Well, I don't know if I told you, but a friend of mine had recommended your page to me because I'm a very, very amateur at traveling right now. I love traveling, but one of the things that I haven't done yet is solo traveling. And I'm extremely excited to have you because I feel like the women who listen to this podcast can obviously learn so much from somebody who does this regularly.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, solo traveling is like one of the most liberating things I've ever done. So I definitely promote that. I tell people everywhere I go that this is something they have to do at least once in their lifetime.
So before we get started into your present day, so tell me a little bit about your background, like your upbringing, how everything was when you were growing up, just to see how you became this like amazing adventurer.
Actually, when I was growing up, I was pretty shy. I grew up in a half Filipino, half white house, so education driven. So
who exactly inspired you to be a PA? How did you find out about the field?
So I met this PA. So I went through school, and in my senior year, I was such a nerd because I basically had no I took all my classes throughout the summer and I never missed a day in school. I got straight A's. I was like super nerd. And my senior year, the only class I had was like health academy class. And through that, I got a summer job, an internship, orthopedic PA. And he basically inspired me. Got paid to go to the gym because he was on call. And he went to the OR, went to the ER, and he just had this like awesome lifestyle, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I actually interviewed him and then basically followed in his footsteps. I went through the same school that he went to and became a PA myself.
So what would you say empowers you today?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. I think the biggest thing is that I'm pretty self-driven and self-reliant. What I mean is that like when I have a goal, I reach it. I don't let excuses get in the way. But really, I have a full-time career and I actually work a lot of hours. Like last month, I worked over 200 hours. It was insane.
Wow.
Very worth it in the end. Just have this freedom, not need any financial support, just relying on myself. So, and then working in the ER because it's open 24/7, I have a pretty flexible schedule. So I think having an education and having a good career has empowered me to do what I want, when I want, and just live the lifestyle that I want.
Yeah.
Basically.
So how old were you when you went on your first trip by yourself?
Actually, I probably did that maybe 3 years ago. And, honestly, that wasn't on purpose. The funny thing is, like, I was kind of forced on this one by myself because I had some of my friends had planned to go to Amsterdam with me. And they ended up canceling on me, but I already had booked my flight. So I was like, well, I'm not gonna not go, right? And I was like pretty freaked out about it. So what I ended up doing was looking up things to do. It was only 5 days that I had to be there. So I looked up things to do and I went there and, honestly, that was the best experience ever. I am actually really thankful that they canceled on me.
So do you still keep in touch with a lot of the people that you meet while you're traveling?
Yeah, actually I do. And it's actually harder to say goodbye to these people. When you go with your friends someplace, that you're going to come back to the States with them. So then you're going to see them again. So it's not so sad, right? But when you go somewhere and you meet people, and it's crazy the amount of human connection you get with these people in such a short time. I've actually cried a couple of times because of this, just going to the airport after spending 7 days with these random people that I just met. But I do try to keep in contact with them. Everyone uses WhatsApp and social media, thankfully, keeps people connected. I try to meet up with them again. Some of them I get to, I've gone to like London with one of my friends from Amsterdam that I met on that trip. I met someone in Bali who I am very close friends with in Amsterdam also. And, I try to see them again.
Do you think that the people that you connect with along the way in your travels, do you think that you guys kind of share it's like almost like a kindred spirit? Maybe you guys are like twins from another lifetime or something because you guys both are like traveling the same way, or, what characteristics do you guys share?
That's funny. I've never thought of it like that. I think, it's not necessarily that we are like kindred spirits, but it's more like, we all come from different paths of life and different countries, and we just happen to meet because we all have the same goals. We have the traveling thing in common. So it's super cool. Like, you can connect with anybody that you meet when you travel.
What has been the most exciting thing that you've done while you've been traveling?
Ooh, that's hard. Everything. I don't know. My travels have all been pretty epic. I think the most exciting things in general are the stuff that I didn't expect. Like, I don't know. This is why I don't plan. I'm a horrible planner to begin with. But
Me too. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it.
I don't like to plan things out because, like, my favorite parts of trips are the ones that I didn't expect to happen, and a lot of it you don't truly expect, I don't plan out everything. I don't really even have an itinerary when I go places. Yeah, it's just those things that you didn't expect. For instance, I was in Italy and we went to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I took a trip there with my friends and took the pictures with the Leaning Tower, the classic pictures. And as we were leaving, we saw that a lot of people were putting up flyers and we're like, what are they doing? Somebody asked. And so one of us went and asked and they're like, oh no, you shouldn't leave tonight. Tonight is Luminara. It's a big festival. A lot of people come. And so we had only booked a hotel night in Venice because that's where we're going next, but we canceled it because we stayed for this festival and it was freaking amazing. One of the best festivals I've ever been to. Like the entire city parties. They basically lit up the entire, like all the buildings facing this river with like candles. And then throughout the entire river, they had fireworks. They had a bunch of DJs and in the middle of the streets, people partying in and out of bars. It was just crazy. And if you ask anybody who's ever been to Pisa, like if there's anything to do, there's not much. And except for when we were there, we just happened to come across this amazing event. And man, I just will never forget that.
So do you think it gives you, without planning, it gives you the opportunity to really see life like a local versus going to every tourist thing planned out?
It's kind of hard because to really live like a local, you'll want to be there for a longer time. So, and I don't get that much time. I'm working the ER. I have to work my 12 to 14 shifts a month, but then I get like a week or two off. And so I have to be able to fit like a whole country in that time frame or get the most out of it. Some people, they get to travel for months at a time. And so they get more time there and they get to live like a local. I would say that that's really the only way to get a feel of that. Or if you go back to the place the second time, you can really do that. The advantage of not planning everything is not canceling everything. I was literally just this year, I flew to Australia for New Year's. I met like 3 people. I only booked a one-way flight because I didn't know when I wanted to come back. And I know it's ballsy. And then I booked 3 days at a hostel. That's literally how I travel every time. And I stayed at the hostel and I met like 3 other people. They're all from different countries. And the 4 of us just clicked. We just happened to get along for those 3 nights. It was amazing. And one of them had booked everything. He booked his bus ticket up the coast. He booked a tour to Whitsundays. He booked his flight to Bali. So he had an itinerary he had to stay on. But you know what? He like loved us so much and we kind of convinced him. He ended up canceling all of that. And, some of it he got refunded, but sometimes you don't get refunded on those things. Yeah, that's it. Like, if you book everything ahead, you might have to stray away from your plans or, cancel things. That's why I just don't plan that far ahead because you never know what's going to happen, especially when you travel alone. Like you can get into a group or meet a group of people and they want to do something else and something that maybe you didn't even know existed. And so you join their group and it's just an amazing time. So I try not to plan too far ahead.
Wow. So, all right, let's demystify the hostel, right? Because most people have seen that movie.
I know.
And it's like scares every American traveler to ever stay at a hostel. But, it's interesting that you bring that up. Like my mother travels a lot to Central America now that she's retired. And she talks about like hostel living and she's like, it's great. And I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like,
that's awesome.
But yeah, so what can you tell us about hostels? I mean, is it like clean? Is it sanitary? Do you get your own bathroom? Like, what are your experiences with that?
Okay, so hostels. This is actually my favorite place to go. Yes, I like those luxurious hotels and stuff, but honestly, if you're in a country for such a short time and you're actually trying to see the country and not just do a resort stay, then you really need to be in hostels because they're so cheap. So hostels are so variable. You actually have to look at the ratings on hostelworld.com because you can get really crappy hostels and you can get really luxurious hostels that are questionable, like borderline hotels. It just depends on where you're at. So basically, and they can range from anywhere from like a couple dollars a night to $100 or so a night. So it just depends. Some of them are clean and have a bunch of amenities like a hotel, except it's kind of a dorm room. Others don't have, just have the bare minimum. You know, you got a bed and you got 4 walls, you know? So that's just something to keep in mind. You have to read the reviews. I generally won't stay in anything less than, it's on a 0 to 10 grading scale, and I won't stay in anything less than an 8. But I generally look for like the higher rating ones because they have everything. They're not dangerous. They're with a bunch of travelers. It's all like-minded people. They all do the things. And actually, if you have, like, if you want to know what to do in the city, that's the best place to go to. It's not like a hotel. I mean, a hotel, sometimes they can give you ideas, but they try to get you tours. Whereas a hostel, like, you can meet people and they'll tell you where they've been. So it's not that scary, and it's a lot more fun. And especially if you're going by yourself, it's cheap. It makes traveling much more affordable. And that's a great way to meet people. They actually have like sorry, I can go on and on about hostels.
No, I'm glad. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm like, yes, this sounds amazing. I would love to pay super cheap prices for somewhere that I feel safe, right? Like,
right.
And meet great people.
Yeah. So they have, so say you're shy. This is your first time traveling somewhere by yourself and you book a hostel. Well, they have these icebreaker type activities. Like if you stay there for a couple of days, they have like these tours that you can go on with the hostel group. Seen some people get their stuff stolen because they left their door open and their stuff out, you know, like in their own private room. So, you know, you just can't be careless about that stuff. If you have valuables, then make sure that that's locked up.
So you mentioned having to lock your stuff up. So does that mean that you have to be like a super light packer? Because I can't imagine just like going to these places randomly and having 14 bags with me, each one for a pair of shoes.
Oh my gosh. So no, if you're trying to see the country and you're going to be traveling a bunch between cities, packing light is essential because especially in hostels, you don't want to bring like 4 suitcases. You want like 2 small bags. And honestly, I've gotten this down to a T. Like I'm a pretty professional packer by now. I literally can travel. I went to Australia for 19 days and I had 2 carry-ons. Like I made it through with 2 carry-ons, which sounds crazy to any other female out there, I'm sure. But really, you got to learn to pack your necessities. This takes some practice because I can say that I overpacked in the beginning, but over time, you know, my packing has evolved. I get a general idea of what the country looks like, the weather. I kind of look into that, and then I pack accordingly to that. So I try to stay in warmer places. So that way I can carry like smaller items. But basically, like if you're going to travel from place to place, you want like 2 small bags. Yeah, you don't need, a lot of people end up carrying all the extra stuff. Like, oh, what if I need this? Like, what if I need that? Like if you bring a bunch of just in case or what if items, like you're going to overpack, and your goal essentially should be to pack what you're going to use. So just, you know, if there's stuff in my bag, I feel at the end of my trip that I didn't use, I'm like, oh man, I overpacked. Like, but now I've gotten it down to where it's only maybe 2 items. It's not too much anymore. So that's good. But that's essentially your goal. You don't want to pack too much.
Wow, that's a good idea. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my essentials would be, and I'm like 2 bags. Okay.
I know. You know, it's like those extra pair of heels, but the best thing to do is like get stuff that's more versatile. Like if you have a pair of sandals that matches multiple outfits, you know, or I don't know if you've seen this on Instagram, but there's a lot of travelers that will be in these nice dresses and then they'll have a pair of white tennis shoes because, I mean, when you travel, you're going to walk a lot. So they're in comfy shoes, but they have these really pretty dresses, or they take their pictures barefoot because they take off the shoes for the picture. Yeah, that's just like a little trick, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say, now that you mention it, I do, it does strike a memory or two of seeing like different people in tennis shoes or barefoot in their travel pics. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I'm such a heel girl though, but I guess I would have to figure out what really awesome tennis shoes I can find.
Yeah, it just depends on your location, of course, you know, but most places I found that require a lot of walking. And personally, I don't wear heels very often, so I don't know, that would do a number on my feet. But some people are able to walk in heels for hours and hours, so it just totally depends.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for work, I have to walk in heels. So I think I kind of get used to it. My feet don't have feeling anymore, but it definitely, I mean, if I'm walking down an old cobbled
Oh
road, I'm pretty
yeah.
sure
Oh
it's
my God.
not fun.
That's all of Europe right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick up some tennis shoes, maybe a gold pair or something.
A goal. Yep. That's the way to go.
So one of the things I thought was really interesting when reading through some of these tips that you sent me was that when you were bartending,
Mm-hmm.
to stop making excuses about traveling, you would save your $1 bills and stash
Um,
them away.
yes. So I tend to online shop a lot. I tend to shop period a lot. So I literally
Mm-hmm.
have to hide money from myself because if it's in my line of sight or if I know it's there, I'm going to spend it. So I have multiple ways I hide money from myself. One of the things that I did when I bartended for sure was I would just put my $1 bills that I got from tips, because usually at the end of the night, like you have a lot of ones, but you change them in with your manager and they'll give you like bigger bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would keep a majority of whatever ones that I had, whether it be $5, maybe it was like 50 one night, whatever. And I would just stash them away and hide them from myself. Over time, that actually builds up. You know, to save money, the thing is, it's like you could put $5 a day away every day, and that's going to stack up over time, but you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't do that part, you know? $5 a day is like really nothing to some people, you know, like they spend it on like a coffee or whatever. But really, if you just put that aside, you could save up a bunch of money. Another thing that I did was with Venmo was another trick for me was basically anytime I go out to dinner, and actually I still do this now. Anytime I go out to dinner with someone or we go out for drinks, I just put it on my credit card and then they will Venmo me money. But I just leave it in my Venmo so that I have just money stacked up there. So I never use it. And then it just becomes a savings account for me to use for my travels.
Wow, that's such a good tricks in general to save extra money. But this is I mean, it's so easy for everyone to say, oh, I don't have the money. You're absolutely right. I mean, I'm one of those people too. Like I need to hide everything from myself in order to make sure that I'm not spending. But those are such awesome ideas. Like,
yeah. You know, traveling is not so expensive. It's just, you know, you do have to save a little bit of money for it. But you know, a lot of people say I don't have money, but then they go binge drinking on the weekends or they spend money on, I don't know, more makeup or something else that, you know, that's not really necessary. So if you just put those things aside and actually make traveling a priority, it becomes affordable.
yeah, no, that sounds like such a good trick though, for sure. And so where do you go to find your is it like a last minute getaway? Are you like on hopper apps? Like how do you get your notifications for the places that you're going to go next? Are you looking for a good deal or, you know, is it just like something pops up and you're like, "Oh, I want to go visit there." Like how do you get your inspiration to go to the next place that you go to?
Oh, that's tough. That's so funny. So sometimes I literally open up Google Maps and I just look around and see, I don't know what place I haven't been to. If I had a globe, I spin it and like point and go, you know?
It's like coming to
I
America.
know. I know. I'm like, no, I don't want to go to
Yeah.
Wisconsin, you know?
Right.
So, no, really, I think I get a lot of my inspiration from social media. Like I just go through Instagram, follow a bunch of travel things, and then when I see things I come across that look awesome, I will save it and I'll go through it later and try to go to those places. I don't know. I don't really go for deals, I guess. I don't know. I just really randomly pick a place and it depends on the amount of time I have off. So, like, for instance, in a couple of weeks, I'll be going to Mexico. And the reason I chose that was because, you know, I only have 7 days off and I want to make the most of it. So I decided to go there and I'm going to go scuba dive with whale sharks and see the museum in Cancun and all this stuff. So I guess technically like a flight to Europe would be okay too, but I just wouldn't go to say like Africa where in 7 days, like it takes 2 days to get there, you know? So like, I guess that's how I decide. It's like how far I'm willing to go for such a short trip, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
For deals, I would say if you're looking for flights, because flights are the most expensive part, honestly. I generally will use Skyscanner and then Kayak sometimes has it or Google Flights. Like those are my three go-to for flights.
Okay. Now, I think this is like the most important question, right? Because you are a female. Is it safe? Would you consider saying that this is a very safe hobby that you have? Traveling alone.
Traveling alone, yeah. So I would say that it's just as safe as, anything else that you're doing alone as a female. You just got to think of it like this. Like, there are thousands and thousands of females who travel alone. A lot of them do it. In Europe, it's the norm. But keep common sense in mind. Like, for instance, you wouldn't walk down the favelas in Brazil with your Rolex watch and your diamond earrings, and then, and without a tour guide, because that's where you definitely be a target. You don't go down dark alleys by yourself, and where you feel it's unsafe. These are things that I wouldn't do in my own backyard. I live in Bernardino County. I wouldn't do that here. I guess other places may be more safer, but yeah, I just got to keep, I don't know, you should be able to sense those things. At least I feel like I do. If it doesn't feel safe, don't do it. I know there's places in Europe where you can walk by yourself as a female, like in very high touristy areas. And really the only thing you have to worry about is pickpocketers. Just can't carry your valuables in your back pocket, but they're otherwise generally safe.
Yeah.
I started taking boxing just in case, just for some self-defense, but I've never really felt like anything I've done was unsafe.
So does your mom freak out about this, being like a Filipino mom? Does she ever say, Tanya, you can't do this, or maybe this isn't a good idea? Or was she ever like, can you give me your passport? I'm not about to let you go on this one.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny that you asked that. So for the first few years, I had to, I don't want to say I lied to my mom, but I just didn't tell her. I just didn't tell her that I was going by myself or with people I didn't know. For instance, actually my first time traveling alone, I forgot about this, was in Honduras for a medical mission, but I was meeting people there. Like, I was meeting a bunch of doctors and other medical people, EMTs and stuff. We were going on a medical mission as a group, and we've been in contact through. And so my mom asked me, like, who are you going with? I was people from work. Not they don't work with me directly, but they work at other sites. So yeah, over time, she got used to me just leaving. And for a while, I didn't tell her I'd go by myself. But now she's like, who are you going with? And I'm like, oh, it's just me, And she's like, well, be careful, because I think she's over it now.
Yeah, it's just like, well, if you've done one solo trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, my mom's actually from Honduras, and like every time I go on a trip in general, even if it's down the corner, she's just like, who are you going with? Like, still that overprotective, like,
oh,
I need to know where you're going.
Yeah.
So now I just kind of like WhatsApp her, but I try my best not to tell her all the details.
Yeah, I know. I just show her the nice pictures. Yeah. I'm glad she didn't see, like, last month I had all of my stuff stolen, my passport included, and I'm glad she didn't see any of that, because she would have been freaked out. So I told her when I got home.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So how did you handle that situation? I think that's every traveler's like worst nightmare, right? Is like getting all of your stuff stolen. Like, how does one go about handling that?
You just have to stay calm and accept things for what it is. Stuff happens, and freaking out about things does not change anything. I think it's helpful that I work in the emergency department, because I'm trained to stay calm and keep my composure in someone else's crisis. So I guess when I have my own crisis, I kind of take a logical approach to it. It's like, what do I do next to solve this problem? So basically what happened in Amsterdam for me was, I just landed from Israel. I was going to visit my friend that I met in Bali, and he picks me up from the airport, and he lives actually an hour away from Amsterdam. And so I wanted to stop by and get food in Amsterdam. So after he picked me up, we parked the car, we went to go eat. And by the time we come back, like, his car, like, window was smashed in and my luggage was stolen. And that had everything, like everything, my passport, my drone, my laptop, my everything.
Oh my God.
So the windows to his car wasn't tinted, and just everything just got stolen. So we had some drinks that night, so I didn't want to go to the police that very second. But the next morning, we went to the police station, filed a report, and then went to the U.S. Embassy and had to file for an emergency passport. So I already knew how to do this because this is the second time I thought I lost my passport. The first time,
wow.
I know, this is why I can't have nice things. So the first time was in Dubai, and I went to a New Year's party, and I didn't know if I had to bring my passport at that time to show my age, but I guess in most countries you actually don't need your passport anywhere. So you can just leave in your hotel or hostel or whatever. So but anyways, I brought it that time because they told me I would need it. Like one of the locals said I would need it. And so that night, we drink, and it's a New Year's party. And then I get back to my hotel the next morning, and there's no passport. I'm like looking for it in my purse that I brought, and it's not there. I stayed calm in that time too, and I actually didn't end up losing it. Well, I did, but it was still at the venue, and I went to the venue. Well, let me start over. So I looked up online what to do if you lose your passport in a foreign country. So I had already researched this, and that was several years ago. I basically knew that I had to go to the U.S. Embassy and all that stuff. So so I did that. And then thankfully at that time when I went to the venue that I thought I had lost it, they actually had it there. And there were several other passports that were missing too that other people left. So I guess it was kind of a common thing. What I found out was people don't steal in Dubai. I thought it was because it's a rich country, but they told me, or a rich city, but they told me it's because the consequence is too great. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the consequence is. I never really looked it up, but yeah, people don't steal there. Yeah, so I already knew what to do in Amsterdam because of that situation.
Wow. Well, that's good. I definitely, whenever I go somewhere, the first thing I do is make sure that I know exactly where the U.S. Embassy is. And the second thing I know is where the Honduran Embassy is.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, somebody's going to get me home.
Yes.
Whichever one is closer. But yeah, no, that's such a great rule of thumb is just like, just find it, make sure you know where it is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I've been through everything. Like, I've had a lot of, if you travel enough, if you go enough time somewhere or you do enough of something, you're bound to come into problems. It doesn't happen often, but it can happen, especially if you go as often as I do. So.
Well, Tanya, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today and just giving me these amazing tips for female solo travelers and demystifying the fear behind it and just making it sound like it's so amazing. I'm so ready to book my first flight by myself and get out there and start exploring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do, let me know how that goes.
I will. And then
I love hearing people's stories. That's what I love about meeting people is just hearing everyone's story and what they did. Awesome.
Absolutely. And I might just have to hit you up if I'm in the same place as you at the same time.
Sure.
Like, Tanya, help. I need some help.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. So just so everybody knows, where can they follow you? Where can they keep up with the latest travel tips? You have a blog. I want them to know how to find you on Instagram so they can see all these amazing photos that you have and just follow the experiences that you are enjoying throughout life.
For sure. My Instagram, I probably post the most stuff on there. It's at epitome_of_living. So epitome of living. I do have a website also that I post a bunch of travel stuff to. It's epitomeofliving.com. And I am doing a YouTube channel. I'm going to start vlogging all my stuff and give you more visual of my tips and tricks through traveling. So that's up and coming this year. So
a lot in store, huh?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Tanya. You have a great evening, and I look forward to following you on Instagram.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on your show.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Empowerment and All That. For daily inspirational messages, follow me on Instagram at Rita, RITA_Bautista, BAUTISTA 1111, or you can follow Empowerment and All That on Instagram and on Facebook. And remember, keep it positive or don't keep it at all.